Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Lonely Wrist, where we explore watches just not as objects, but reflections of people, culture, and design. As always, I am your host, Blake Ray. And today on the show, we are joined by someone who is bringing fun to the watch industry. I certainly enjoy her perspective as a female voice in the industry and a refreshing sense of honesty to the watch community. She makes watches feel more fun and approachable. And of course, by now, you know I am here with the wrist chick. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hi, Blake.
Hey, how's it going?
Going good. How are you?
Good. I spent some time writing that in case you can't tell.
It was really good. I'm very impressed.
I was like, well, damn, like, cause I watched your YouTube video where you're talking about like watches and wonders, like the hot takes of watches and
Yeah,
wonders,
yeah.
like what it's really like to go there. And a couple things that came to mind, I was like, okay, first of all, damn, like where were you buying your bottles of water? That was one thing that came up, and then hopefully you booked your hotel and enough in advance that it like didn't set you back like fortunes.
It was pricey because it was right next to the expo center. So that's the trade-off. It's like either you book something farther out, but then you have to get transportation. I'm looking for convenience. I'm wearing high heels. I wanted to walk there. So I booked right next to the expo center. Yes, bottles of water, no matter where you go, is crazy. I couldn't find like a little shop on the side of the road. There was nowhere. It had to be a glass bottle, everything. They serve it to you in a nice glass. I'm like, can't I just get like Poland Spring? Like I don't know. So it was an experience for sure, but overall it was a good one.
No pro tip. I went not this. I went last year, and I did like my watches and wonders early because I was kind
Mhm.
of concerned about like the zombie pitches from brands, where brands are essentially just like, oh, well, here's the newest. They've said the same shit over and over.
Yep.
So I was like, if I could organize with a couple brands and go early, like that
Hmm.
would be epic. And so that's what I did last year. I didn't do, the Beau Rivage and Paul Expo and all that, the Villa Saracen. Like I didn't do any of that like last year.
Hmm.
Um, and no, I stayed like right across the street from the Beau Rivage. And
Wow.
I think for my Airbnb, like the girl didn't know that Watches and Wonders was coming up. So like I paid like 120 bucks for my own apartment. And then
Gosh.
and then right below was like a little like shop and shop, like a little grocery store.
Oh,
And and yeah, so I was like hopping down there and I was getting like bottles of water for like $2 or something. So I was
I'm
like,
so jealous. No, I didn't do that way. I did it the dumb way, the tourist way, and
nah.
I spent a fortune. So next
Yeah.
time I'll do
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean, yeah. And yeah, I mean, they have free transportation. Like, I literally would take one bus and I would land at Paul Expo. And I was like, that was super nice. Like, I had that, I did not plan that, but
Hmm.
fuck, was I tired and my feet were destroyed.
Yep.
And I spent quite a lot of time with Sophie's Watch World.
She's
And
awesome. Yeah.
I was feeling so bad for her just wearing her heels. And I was like, why are you doing this to yourself? Like, I mean, I know that you
It's
need to look fabulous all the time, but
Mhm.
like do yourself a favor here and wear, something is a little bit more comfortable on your feet. So,
It's definitely a thing that women do, and you have to make a choice. Pain is beauty sort of thing. It's a real thing, and there are no comfortable heels. I mean, there are some that are more comfortable than others, but at some point you just sacrifice it. And I mean, my feet were wrecked. And then I went to Paris and London after,
I
so
saw that.
I
Yeah.
walked for 2 full weeks straight. So it was brutal, but you sacrifice, and I'm like, it's 2 days of my life, I'll
Yeah.
destroy my feet, it's fine. But girls, we don't always think logically. Guys just wear sneakers, but we're like, no, that's gonna ruin my outfit.
Yeah, I brought only one pair of Nike Dunks and that was all I needed.
I brought 6 pairs of shoes on that trip.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody made fun of me, but I was like, I'm doing it. I did it.
You were in Geneva for 2 days? Did I understand you correctly? How long were you in
uh
Geneva for?
I think I was there for 3 days, 3 or 4 days.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
I
I
went
was
early, went to the other shows outside of Watches and Wonders.
what were you most impressed to see?
So at Watches and Wonders, I would say Moser. I really wanted to see the pop collection. I just the stone dials and seeing them in person. You know, you see the pictures. They obviously have like amazing photographers that do these photos, but seeing those in person and I did the private viewing so that you can actually get hands-on with them. And I would say that was the most impressive to me because just the movements and the watches along with the stone dials and just hearing how they sourced everything, it was really cool and I was just really impressed. So that I would say was the highlight for me was the new Moser collection.
Yeah, I mean that was an amazing release. I'm sure you probably saw the robot, all right?
Yes, I did. I
Okay.
did.
Yeah, that to
Yeah.
me, I was like, oh
Everybody
shit.
liked the robot. I wanted the
Yeah.
the stone dials, but yeah, the robot was still really cool.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more, especially considering how they like cut the two stones and made them like look very cohesive. Like you can't
Hmm.
tell that they're two stones. I mean, you can tell from visually, but you can't tell the way that they
Yeah.
put them together, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning.
Mhm.
What sparked your passion for watch collecting and how did you evolve into your persona, the rich chick?
My online character.
Yeah.
So I would say, it's not this really exciting start. It was basically right at the beginning of COVID. I was working a lot, but when you get home, no one was going out, no one was traveling anymore. So I got down the YouTube rabbit hole. So I started watching videos, and I will say that Nico from Pride and Pinion was one of the first YouTubers I saw. And I wasn't into watches before that. I didn't know anything about them. And I was like, I started watching him, and he's a little more my style. He swears, he's funny, whatever. It's laid back, but also like a lot of knowledge about watches. So I started watching him, started watching all the other guys on YouTube, and I kind of got obsessed and I learned as much as I could about watches for several years. And it wasn't until this past October that I went to my first watch event. And that's when this whole wrist chick thing started. But I was kind of secretly in the background nerding out over the last few years, learning. And I didn't buy my first real watch until 2021. So it's been fairly recent for me.
What decided what was the moment that you knew like okay, like I'm gonna create content around watches, like I'm gonna launch a brand, I'm gonna launch a persona, like where was the light switch moment for you, you know?
So for me, it's actually kind of interesting, and I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's a long story, but I had a pretty rough year last year. I'm going to keep it very simple, not get into details, but it
All
was
right.
pretty bad.
Sure, sure.
And people have all these fun stories about the passion and how it all started, but mine kind of started from something negative and became very positive. So I had a bad year, and then it was someone suggested to me, you should get a hobby. And I was like, you think so? And I said, well, what do I like? And I said, I really like watches. So I literally looked online, looked for a watch event. I saw one in New York, and at the time I lived nearby. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to wear. I don't know what to do. I begged someone to come with me. I finally got a girl to come with me. I had to pay for her train ticket for her dinner. She just did not want to go. And I went to New York City Watch Time and Wind Up Watch Fair, and it just took off from there.
Wow. What was your you said like you got your first watch in 2021.
Mhm.
What was that? The watch that you first
It,
acquired?
it was a Hamilton khaki field watch, an automatic. Love it. It's my favorite watch in my collection still, even though I have ones that are much more expensive than that one. It's
Yeah,
my
for
favorite.
for some reason the cheaper watches they sit closer to the heart for some reason. I know
Hmm.
you spend more money on a much nicer watch, and
Hmm.
maybe it's just me, but I feel like I need to take particularly extra care of it because I spent more money on it.
Right.
Not that, I can't wear it, but I'm always cautious about like what conditions I wear it in and this and I can just do whatever with my cheaper watches, so they feel more wearable.
I agree.
Um, and so, with your khaki, like what drove you to that piece and why did you decide to pick up the khaki?
So for me, I'm kind of a sentimental person, and I really love like US military history. I have family members that are veterans, and I was looking at different brands. I saw the history behind it. I know that they're now, made over in Switzerland, but originally had American roots. So that's what drove me to it. And also the style. The car I drive, it kind of matches the look. So I like the look, but I also like the history of the brand. So that's what drove me to it. And it was a really clean dial, very readable. And so for everyday life, I actually use my watch to tell time. Not everybody does that. So it was a very readable watch. And that was also part of the decision for it. But really it was the history of the brand.
You don't drive a Humvee, do you? I
No,
hope not.
no,
Okay.
no, no.
All right. I was
I'm not
like,
that
damn,
wild.
because yeah, no, like you supposed to be getting destroyed on gas right now.
I know. A little bit smaller version. So.
Okay. You said it was a military vehicle type, right? That was the vibe that.
Yeah, so it's a military green. So I have a
Okay.
the Hamilton has a NATO strap. It's like a
Yeah,
army
yeah.
green. I have an army green Jeep Wrangler. So kind of
Yeah.
fits the
Okay.
whole
There we
the
go.
whole vibe. And
Jeep girl. Jeep
I'm
girl.
a Jeep girl, top down. That's how I roll. Love it.
Did
Love it, love
did
it.
did you I bought mine because I have a khaki field too. I think mine's a
Oh, nice.
38. And then
Hmm.
I also had the green and like leather like accented strap. And then
Yeah.
I like quickly got it off that and got the bracelet. So
Oh.
I would highly encourage you to take a look at the bracelet because the bracelet is pretty awesome for it.
Yeah, I've never
And
done a bracelet, only NATO straps. I have the original one on there right now. It's a little worn
oh, okay.
out, but I've only
Yeah.
bought in replacement NATO straps, so I'll have to try the bracelet.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture after the fact.
Yeah.
What would you say draws you towards a particular watch? Would it be design, like history, like, like mechanics, like
Mhm.
what draws you to watches? What draws you to a specific watch?
I would say there's a few things, but the first thing is the overall look of the watch. I have to admit that, if I like the way it looks. But then you dig a little deeper, I would say my next thing is I'm not a big fan of quartz watches. I do have one or two, but movements, mechanics, I don't geek out too much on it, but I appreciate how a watch works. So I would say it's mostly how it looks and then how it works. And obviously there's brands I like more than others, certain things, but mostly by the look of it and how it feels on the wrist.
Yeah, and something that stuck out to me when we were talking in Geneva is your Pepsi.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
that's just not a watch that you would expect to see um that's like a deep, I mean a vintage Pepsi, sorry. Let me say that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um that's like a watch where you fall so deep down the rabbit hole that you decide to buy a vintage Pepsi. So I was super surprised by that. And how do you feel like you you I don't know the right word. What am I supposed to say? I don't even know how to talk anymore. Um so
Words.
yeah, I know. Like I'm supposed to be a podcaster here, but I don't know what the hell
You're
I'm talking.
you're fine. You're
Uh
fine.
so
We're just having fun here. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. Um so curious about your Pepsi acquisition, especially what decided why you decided to go vintage. And do you see yourself, playing more in the vintage sandbox than you do in the modern sandbox? Because obviously the khaki is a vintage inspired
Mhm.
modern watch, but do you gravitate more towards the vintage stuff, or like where do you sit in that spectrum?
Well, I'm about to rock your world.
Do
I'm
it.
gonna ruin it a little bit. The Pepsi was actually lent by a friend.
Ah,
So I know, I'm a fraud, but I was given that watch and was told to wear it like it was my own and to enjoy it because I was a bit of a Rolex hater. And I got that watch, wore it for a few months, and fell in love with that specific type of Rolex. So, to answer your question, I do gravitate towards the older watches, but I now own my own. So I had a little sample trial, which not everybody has the luxury of
yeah,
doing, but
totally.
I once it was on my wrist though, that Pepsi, it just felt like this is the watch for me, and I was very fortunate to be able to try it out, you know? So I then scoured the internet and got myself a 1983. And
Oh
it's not the
wow.
Pepsi, it's got the black
Yeah,
bezel insert, but same reference number 16750. So I definitely gravitate towards the older look. I like the patina, I like the matte dial, I like that there's no white gold on the indices, aluminum bezel, so all that. So I do have my own now. The one you saw, unfortunately, was not mine, but I
that's
have
okay.
pretty much the same watch now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I still sorry to gas you up like that, but no, it was a beautiful watch, and this
Yeah.
is still an amazing piece. I have to ask, when you're getting ready to go out the door, do you think about the watch or the outfit first?
I start with the watch. Watch is
Me too.
always first. Outfit comes second. And it's as you can see, I wear a lot of black. That's kind of how
Yeah,
people know me.
versatile.
So yeah, yeah. So watch is always first. And then I match the jewelry outfit all around the watch because it depends where I'm going. I'm not gonna wear a Rolex to certain things,
Sure.
so I'll start at the watch.
I barely wear my Rolexes, and I had a vintage Rolex, like a 1960s Rolex
Oh,
that
nice.
I traded to a like he had it, he didn't wear it. He's got a bigger wrist than I, but he still for some reason likes to wear smaller watches. But it was a 36 date just.
Mm,
I had it for a couple months, and then just very quickly I just realized I wasn't gonna wear it. And then, even I have so many watches in rotation that it didn't have a quick set date. So I was like, fuck, this is
mm,
this is annoying as shit to
no,
like even get it on wrist. So half the time I'd wear it, the date would be wrong. So then I'd look
exactly.
down and somebody'd be like, oh, what, like, what's the, I'm like signing a check or something, or like, filling something
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, fuck, I just put the wrong date. Like, 'cause I'm looking at oh, I forgot to set it on my watch. So like that was
Yeah.
one annoyance. And then the something started flaking on the dial. Like the dial started
Mm,
flaking. So I sent it to Rolex to get service, and I was thinking, oh, this thing's gonna come back like a newborn baby.
yeah,
And then I got it back like within a week, and I was like, oh shit, the service is done. Like that's crazy. But
fast, yeah.
Rolex declined to service it.
Oh,
And I was like,
interesting.
it was super weird. And then it racked my brain for the longest time, like why they decided to not service it. Because here you are, buying these like for, to pass down for generations.
Mhm,
And it was a particularly common date just. It was the 1601, the one that like
mhm,
there's probably the most produced, like, vintage date just out there. And they wouldn't service it. So
hmm,
I was just super kind of like that kind of like upset me to a degree. And I was like, well, if I
yeah,
can't if I can't get this service, I mean, I know I could take it to a local watchmaker, have a service, put all these, and so I started getting concerned about access to parts, like of
mhm,
of course we can buy
yeah,
generic parts or whatever, keep the watch running like zero issues. But, I'm one of those people that I particularly want it done right. And so
Mhm.
I will typically pay the premium to get it sent back to the brand. And so the fact that I owned a watch that seemed unserviceable by Rolex,
Mhm.
was like, okay, that seems weird, but
That's a
kind of
bummer. Yeah.
yeah, kind of upsetting and disappointing because I wanted like a daily driving Rolex.
Hmm.
And now I don't have a daily driving I have two Rolexes, and I mean technically
Yeah.
you could say I do have a daily driving Rolex, but I just prefer not to wear it for whatever reason. So, and I have a
Yeah.
Submariner and I have a Datejust,
Yeah.
both modern.
Yeah. No, I understand about the quick set date going back to that. That's why I picked this specific model
Good.
number, the 16750, because this is when Rolex went from the 1675 and they introduced the quick set date in this model. And that's why I wanted it, because I wanted a watch I could actually use. And it's you just, click, 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 you're right at the date. So it's kind of like that sweet spot of time in Rolex history where, would I have liked a much older one? Do they look cool? Yes. This is still older, but it's also practical. It could still be serviced. So that's why I went for this year and this specific model because, like I've said, I'm lazy. I'm not going to sit there all day. And, I don't
Yeah.
have 50 watch winders behind me that I'm running all day. And so that's why I did this one.
And it's a OG GMT master,
Yeah, yeah.
which I mean,
I love it. Like it just the plexiglass. Like people don't like plexiglass. I like it.
you could
It's
you could just buff it out if for whatever
yeah,
reason, like,
polywatch. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
there you go.
no, yeah. Easy
Let
peasy.
let's talk about your journey in social media. So you talked about, being influ or at least watching YouTube videos from Nico.
Mhm.
Um, how would you feel that other watch creators influence your journey? And I guess the part two of that question is, have you got a chance to meet any of the people that inspired you on this journey? And and how do you feel like you connect with fellow enthusiasts through your social media? Three-part question.
So, three-part question. I'll try to remember it. Tell me if I forget something. Just
Okay,
guide
okay,
me
you're
here.
good. You got it.
All
You got it.
right.
You got it.
Goldfish brain. So first, I would say I watched different people. So I watched Nico, I watched Federico, I watched Roman, I watched Brit, and so there were different things about all of them. Like some were just sitting at a table, just spewing out watch knowledge. All different styles, and I kind of I took a little bit from everybody and I kind of found a spot that was missing. I said, how can I even be successful in social media if I'm doing something that someone is already doing? So, what I wasn't finding was there weren't women, in my opinion, that were like, you know, really out in the wild, like really excited, going to events. I appreciated the knowledge of these women that were sitting behind a desk and have beautiful lighting behind them. And I just know my personality though, and that wasn't me. So I thought, let me find that spot that's missing and try to fill it. Um, Next question, have I met them? Is that the next question?
Yeah, yeah. Have you
Yeah,
got a chance to meet some of the people that influenced you?
I have. So I've met Federico. I know Federico very well. He's wonderful. I've actually bought a watch from him. I bought my Omega from him. That was my first pre-owned watch. I love it. I've met Roman. I've talked to Nico. We didn't get to meet in person, but we do talk. Um, and I've met, you know, Georgia. I've met Sophie. I've met who else have I met? A lot of different people. And so they've all been really nice. They're all very different. And that's what I love about the watch world is that they all have their own personalities. Some are more shy than others, some are more outgoing, some are, men of very few words. So, it's been fun though, meeting them.
Yeah, I mean, they all bring their own flavor to the industry.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so, obviously like I've been friends with Miss GMT for I mean a while now. And we
Oh,
talk
yeah,
pretty
she's wonderful. Yeah.
yeah, we talk pretty regularly. But when we got a chance to meet in Switzerland, like we got a chance to meet very briefly. We had planned to like do like some like events together and this and that.
Hmm.
And very quickly I was like, well, damn, this girl's like probably like one of the busiest people in watches for the moment, like hot
Hmm.
commodity.
Yep.
Like every brand wants to do press with her and da, da, da,
Hmm.
da, da. And I was just like, wow, that's so amazing because
Yeah.
it's cool to see because she started her journey like pretty close to the same time I started mine,
Hmm.
about a year and a half ago. So this is, I mean, this whole property, like Lonely Wrist and everything, the website, the YouTube, like it's all very new. But navigating the watch industry has been challenging because
Hmm.
there's a handful of like genuine content creators out there, and like it becomes a challenge. Like, how do you work with brands? Like, which brands do you work with? Like, how do
Hmm.
you like pack your own identity into the content, and it's just all these little kind of things that are becoming increasingly challenging.
Yeah.
And I think now, like personally, I have like 40 or so brands that I work with, like
Wow.
maybe 50 or so.
That's
Um
impressive.
and it's just me. It's just me. Like, I'm a one man
Hmm.
band.
Yeah. It's a lot of
And
work.
it
A lot of
is.
work.
It's a full-time job, and then keeping up with the podcast, keeping up with the YouTube, like a lot of this stuff. I don't think people realize that I'll shoot the videos, then I'll edit them, and then I'll
Hmm.
do the voiceover. You know what I mean? Like, I'll do every single piece of this is me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
And that's
and
awesome that you're doing that. That's it's
thank you.
impressive because it's not easy. And I can't even edit like a Instagram reel. It takes me like 20 minutes and I'm just sitting there like this. And so the level that you're doing, it's really impressive to not have like a whole crew of people because these guys have like some of them have crews, like
Yeah,
Federico, not so
of
much. You see
course. Yeah.
Roman walking around, he's got a bunch of people. So they're all different, but I think it's about for me it's about consistency and it's like what can I produce a lot of, and I know I don't work in tech. I'm not professional speaker, videographer, photographer, so I do what I'm capable of, and I think
Sure.
that's the most important is to keep it consistent so that you could produce as much as you can quality content.
Yeah, that's the thing like that have struggled with, consistency, and so as first started, like I've like went back and forth about like how I produce videos.
Mhm.
And the first one I was like, oh sure, I'll just put the watch on the table and I'll just talk about it. Or, like I'll have some notes about it and I'll just read them off, and then I'll show the watch off like a couple different angles, da, 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 da. And then I literally like off the cuff like was doing. And then now I'm literally like scripting things and like trying to jam as much information as I can. I've found kind of like a weird niche where people kind of are more curious about like buying decisions. I've noticed people
Mm,
come to YouTube for, at least for the watch space, for a lot of like buying advice. And so I've tried to figure out how I can kind of like insert myself into, that process, and just give my take, my honest take,
yeah,
because a lot of the people that talk about those watches are um are incentivized to do so, financially. And
right.
so that's where I felt like, okay, like, is there a space for me? Like,
Mhm,
can I talk about these things? Like, what can I bring to the table?
mhm,
I used to sell I mean, I used to sell every watch brand. Like, I
mm,
used to work at a dealer. I used to work as an
okay.
AD. I started off as a collector. Then
Mhm,
my wife, she immigrated to the United States, and so like during her whole immigration process, like I was like, I don't have anything to do.
mhm,
And so I just took a night job at an AD, and then yeah, I was so passionate about talking about watches, and every person that came in to the boutique to me was like, oh, this is a friend. Like,
yeah.
this is cool. Like, they love the same things that I love. Like, this is my
Mhm,
friend. Like, and so I looked at it from that perspective. And some of the people I was working with, amazing people, but they were there for a job. and
Right.
there's nothing
You
nothing
gotta
wrong
make
with it.
money at the end of the day, but
Yeah,
you could tell the difference between the people who are passionate and that are just there to get their
yeah.
paycheck and go home.
Yeah, and I think that that particularly like helped me at least in my case because I'd spend so much time like learning about the person and then they'd be like, "Hey dude, like do you just want to talk about watches now?" Like I'm like, "Hey, like oh cool, I see, like you have an NC State shirt or whatever. Like I lived in Raleigh. Like like
Mhm.
that's so cool. Like oh, here's where like I used to live in this area. Like I grew up there. Like I just spent so much time learning about the person and then the watch kind of came second. And and that was a refreshing take living in Las Vegas where people just want to
Yeah.
shove shit down your throat, like
Yeah.
watches.
Well,
Anyways,
no, that's really like refreshing to hear because I've had that experience. Like, I'll go into ADs and I have literally I'm like, okay, I've got an hour of time. I'm gonna go just look at two watches, and I'm there for like 3 hours because I'll find the one salesperson that like wants to geek out. Because when you start talking watches with someone, I start showing an interest, and then they realize, oh, okay, she knows a little more than the average, maybe, or whatever. and
yeah,
and then I've had that. I was just recently at an AD and I was there for 3 hours, but it ended with me getting invited to like a private event for a very big brand. So, it wasn't even about the watches. It was just about chatting, our experiences, watch collecting, and then, he showed me a couple new releases, tried them on, but it was like we just hung out for like 3 hours. So I totally
that
get it. And
that's
it's
what it's
fun.
all about. Like
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. Like when you meet somebody who like has that same appreciation that you have.
Mhm.
And obviously, from the other side of the counter, you kind of have to like pulse check the person. Like,
Mhm.
okay, like what are they here for?
Sure.
Do they have any time constraints? Like, should I go like deep down the rabbit hole with them?
Yeah.
Like, or should I just kind of like, like dip their toe in the rabbit hole? Like, what should I do? Um, and so when I left, my personal story a little bit, I got really sick. Like, I had some health issues.
Mhm.
And then I literally like had all the people that I was friends with, because like I said, they were my friends, that just
Mm.
kept calling me like every like other week or so, like when new releases came out. And I was like, I had the same conversation. Oh, what do you think about this release? What do you think about that release? Da, 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 da. Like, would you buy this? And I had the same conversation with like so many people, like
Yeah.
dozens of people. Like I would spend hours on the phone just talking about the same shit. And then my wife said something who is that this time? Who is it this time that you're talking
Yeah.
to? Because I feel like you had that same conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was like, like we came up with a concept of like maybe we should just do like a Zoom where like all
Mhm.
like my friends and people like
Mhm.
join and talk we talk watches. And then I came back and I was thinking, well, that's a little challenging because a
Yeah.
Zoom, it's hard to have goals on a Zoom. You
Yeah.
know how it is,
But
like in work meetings, like they just spin off into their own little worlds.
yeah, it's like
Um,
herding cats or something. Like you
yeah,
can't
yeah,
do.
yeah. So I didn't want to be like that guy. So I was like, well, why don't we just like have an outlet where we can just talk about
Mhm.
watches and hopefully if people care about what I have to say, then
Mhm.
they'll tune in and you're on that outlet now. It's
Here we are.
a
That
year
is
and a half,
awesome.
a year and a half
That is
later.
awesome. It's always cool to hear how people get to where they're at, and I think we all have different stories, different backgrounds, and that's what's fun about it. And honestly, like I enjoy just traveling, going to the shows more than anything. Yes, I absolutely love watches, but just talking to people, that's what you spend most of your time doing. You try a watch on, it takes 5 minutes, but then you're chatting with someone for like an hour. So to me, that's what it's about. And then you build that foundation and you get to where you want to be. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I mean it's really about I mean it seems like you're everywhere. Like it seems like you're everywhere. I know you were just in New
I am.
York
I literally
and
am.
then you were in you're in France and then obviously after Geneva, like I mean like Jesus, like it doesn't seem
I
like you
know.
stop.
I don't. Like if I turn this camera around and showed you this room right now, like my suitcase is still on the floor. Like this room is my travel room. It's my spare room, and there's just shit everywhere. And I
That's
just
all right.
never unpack because it's like, where am I going next? So I have the
I
luxury to be able to do that right now. So
I still haven't unpacked from Geneva.
yeah,
I mean, that tells you my mind frame right now.
that's
Like
right. It's
I
okay.
I I
Priorities.
literally have been looking at my luggage there, and I just keep thinking like, when am I gonna unpack this? And I haven't came up with an answer yet, but
That's all right.
hopefully I will unpack it.
Yeah, or you just go on another trip. Well,
Yeah, we're just ready to go. There you go.
you're good.
Well, when I was flying back from Geneva, like I sat down in one of the, of course, like the whole entertainment system and all. So of course, with my luck, I get put next to like a lady, with a baby, or
Mhm.
like a lady and a baby, and then so she was holding the baby the whole time, and then on the other side was like a little kid and his mom was like in the seat in front of him. So he was at the window. I was in the center, right? Fun,
That's
fun,
like my
fun.
worst nightmare.
I
My
know,
worst
right?
nightmare.
I know.
No
And
offense to
then,
children, but
yeah, no, no, of course, of course. But the worst, like the cherry on top was my fucking little like entertainment center was broken.
oh God.
And this was a
So
long
you're
haul flight. Like this was the overseas from Geneva to DC, because I went from Geneva to DC and then DC to Vegas.
oh, that
So
is
there,
just oh
I know it's like
nightmare.
exactly.
Mm-mm.
So
Mm-mm.
nevertheless, I said something. I like when I was like trying to like mess with it, I said something to the flight attendant, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll reset it." And then, like when they were coming through, like, to do like their first little snacks or whatever, I was like, "Dude, did you reset?" He's like, "Oh shit, like it doesn't work." And then he literally had like a little like handheld, and he was like, "Do you want me to give you miles or do you want me to give you a voucher?" And
Oh,
I was like, "I'll take the voucher."
yeah, you get paid for your suffering. That's good.
Yeah,
At
it was
least
it was
something came out of it.
it was a three.
Jeez.
I didn't even ask how much or anything. I was just thinking, oh, like they're gonna send me probably like a little $20 voucher or some
Hmm.
bullshit,
Yeah.
whatever. $300, $300 voucher.
I'm gonna start breaking my TV on airplanes
I
because
I
300 bucks,
I
it's pretty
know, and
good.
I was
That's
thinking, I
pretty
was like,
good.
okay, what can I? And so my first ticket, like the ticket I bought to Geneva, I bought that
Hmm.
with a voucher too. So I'm
Oh
just
my
like
God.
rolling in vouchers at this point,
Awesome.
and
Awesome.
I can't remember how I got my first oh God. Yeah, that was a nightmare. When
Yeah.
I hate United. United's like the worst for me, and that was who I flew on to Geneva with, but I flew to
Hmm.
Istanbul in October, and they didn't schedule me a long enough like layover. So I had like a 40-minute layover.
Oh no, you have to have like
Yeah.
enough time. I've traveled
And
so much. It's like you need like
here here was like the kicker. So I flew from here to San Francisco and San Francisco to Istanbul. And when we were coming to San Francisco, like the flight was already late leaving. And then, so anyways, as we're coming to land, like we're like, 20 minutes late. I'm like, fuck, I've got 20 minutes to get to my next like thing before like boards. And then it's like, like 10 minutes after it boards, it like, it's closed or whatever. So like, okay, I got like really like 30 minutes and we're already 20 minutes late, you know? Um, so then we're coming in, and then believe this or fucking not, um, apparently like another, like they miscommunicated, and another plane was coming at the same time. And
oh
so
my God.
like they diverted the landing. Some lady like in front of me was like screaming, "Holy shit, like that, but there's another plane right there." You know what I mean? And so they like just like boop, like did a whole little thing
Mm.
there. I was like, I was and so anyways, almost died, but
Yeah, yep.
um
Here we are. We're okay.
yeah,
No
if
big
it could,
deal.
I mean, if it couldn't get any worse, I would have wish that it happened, because once I got to San Francisco, it was super late in the evening. So I missed
Mm.
my connection. They were like, "Look, there's no other flights to Istanbul. Like, you're gonna have to stay the night, in
Yeah.
San Francisco." And I was like, "Okay, whatever. Like, just give me a hotel." They're like, "Okay, cool. Like, go here, And so I went there, and there was nobody. Like, it was just a ghost town. And so then I kept going to the United Lounge, and they were like, "Oh, you have to go here." And I was like, I would go there. And I mean, it was just like I spent hours on the phone with people saying like, "Hey, I need to get rebooked. Like, like I need a hotel. Like, da 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 da. Like." And anyways, it took me like almost 7 hours, in between these little
Mm.
like, and then eventually I found somebody who's like, why didn't like they take care of this for you on the phone? Like, this is the number to call. Like, here's just your reservations line.
Mhm.
Eventually, I got a new flight, and yeah,
Yeah,
so that was where
travel
my
is, oof,
I
can be
know,
very stressful,
I
very
know,
stressful. I
I love it,
travel
but I
so
hate it.
much. I know. I am happiest when I'm away, and I have to say the amount of traveling done all over the world, knock on wood, whatever. I've been very fortunate. Yes, few mishaps, but I've heard horror stories and I've been on like 24-hour flights with no issues. And then I've been on a 1 hour flight with a million issues. So it's just a gamble. But I just have gotten so used to it. And I just know that I want to get somewhere fun. And so I just keep focused on that. But yeah, there's definitely like horror stories with traveling.
I
So
I have the worst luck. I've been dark, but I've been in a plane where the front wheel wouldn't properly come down
oh god. Yeah,
during
no.
landing. Yeah, so that was rough. I was in a train accident.
My god.
I was actually in two train accidents. Sorry.
Oh my god. So you just have, like, you just need to, like, stay in your house is what you're saying. It's
I
like
feel
you
like it.
just can't go
Uh,
out. Oh my
no,
god.
the first train accident was like horrific, like
Oh,
nightmares. Like
god.
somebody jumped in front of the train that I was on.
Jeez. Yeah, no,
Crazy. And
no.
then my second one, I was living in Tbilisi, Georgia, and me and my wife were taking a train to go to Yerevan, Armenia for like a weekend. And somebody like parked a car in front of the train and just smacked into
Jeez.
it. And then we sat there for I mean, obviously, like, you just felt like a, so it wasn't
Yeah.
crazy, but then, they were trying to like, had to like investigate and they had to take the train off and they had to, inspect the train and do all this bullshit. And the train was powered by the air conditioner was powered by the movement of the train. And this is middle of summer, like
Oh,
in
so you're just, like,
Georgia,
cooking in there.
fucking baking in there.
Mm.
And so you just see people walking around like shirtless and like, like in their underwear because it was so fucking hot.
My
It was so
god.
hot and it was just brutal.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe you gotta start traveling when I do, because I seem to have I don't have a black cloud over me. I do in many other areas of my life, but travel is is the only thing that's worked out for me. So,
Good. Yeah. I mean, if
ugh.
anything, that's the time that you want things to be
Yes, yes.
like working properly for you.
Hmm.
Um, Curious about your social media presence a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, how have so obviously like you started to gain a significant following, what I would say. Um, and how has your audience and your influence kind of kept leveling you into, continuing this or at what moment did you say like, okay, like this really is sticking? Did you have one of those moments where you're like, okay, like I see the people who appreciate the content that I produce, like I see the comments that
Yeah.
are coming in, like
Yep.
people are reaching out to me telling thank you for helping me with this or that. I mean, I get
Mm.
comments like I'm sure you probably do too.
Yeah.
At what moment did it kind of like did you get that satisfaction out of producing the content that you produce and building your audience? Like how do you keep them engaged?
So I would say, for me again, I kind of stumbled into this with no plan. Like I just said, I'm gonna go to a watch event in New York and I I knew it was the right thing for me to keep doing it when I met Moser there and I know I talk about Moser, everybody makes fun of me, but I love but I put a watch on and it was like the Moser Endeavor tourbillon Vanta Black rose gold, like the most gorgeous watch I've ever seen in my life. And I just had like chills up my whole arm. And I to have like a physiologic reaction to putting a watch on, that's when I realized like the watch part of it was I really love watches. And so that was the moment I said, "Oh, okay, like this is something I really like." And then becoming the wrist chick, I noticed that, I met Miss GMT, I met other girls at those events in New York, and just seeing like how supportive everyone was, it was like shocking to me because girls can be pretty cutthroat. We're not always the nicest to each other. It's very competitive,
Yeah.
a lot of jealousy, a lot of this, a lot of that. And so once I saw what the community was like, I was like, maybe I can like stick around here. And then as time went on, I just said, you know what? I'm going to start putting out quick little videos here and there. I truly didn't think anything was going to come of it. I was like, nobody's going to, there's so many people online. And then I would say the point where it turned for me was, I mean, I was going to every show. I literally I went to Miami Beach Antique Show, met a lot of people there. I started doing some live streaming on YouTube with other people's platforms. And I noticed that people were, you know, I was getting feedback when I was on YouTube, and they were like, it's refreshing to see a woman that actually likes watches and isn't, I hate to use the word boring, but I've been told I'm not boring. So, and not dry and stuffy, and, and I actually get excited. And so once I started getting that feedback online, I was like, okay, let me keep going. And then I would say, the most recent events I've been to have been the ones that really kicked it off for me. And it gave me the courage to start YouTube because I've been doing the Instagram, really just trying to build myself up a bit. And then, but the type of person I am, I can just talk and go on. And I have so many ideas for YouTube, but I felt like I couldn't go right into it until people actually like cared about what I had to say. So,
Sure.
but I would say after meeting a lot of watch, celebrities, and even some of them saying like, "Hey, I've seen your stuff." I'm like, "You're joking, right?" Like, and so and even meeting Sophie was a big thing too. And she's just like so full of life, so fun. And just those moments, like there were a lot of little moments. And but I would say definitely this past trip, Watches and Wonders, Paris and London, was like what really was like, okay, I'm going to do this and people are noticing me and I'm getting good feedback. And then I went to Boucher Watch Week, and, like you look at your follower count and it just like went like this. And
Yeah.
so and you're hanging out with like Andrew Morgan, like he's your brother. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, hey. So a lot of little moments. It's a lot about building confidence because it's very hard to put yourself on the internet. So for me, it's been a process. And I would say I've only been doing this since October. Like, I mean,
It's
I've
crazy.
only been in this a couple months. So I really don't
That's
have much
insane.
to
Yeah.
say like about, oh, but it's just been these watch events where I put myself out there. I walk up to people, even if I'm nervous. Like I walked up to the owner of Studio Underdog. I was like, hey, what's up? I'm so and so. And he's like, oh, I've seen you on Instagram. And I was like, so
Yeah.
it's fun. It's just, so those were the moments for me that
It's,
I was like, I'm going to keep going with
it's
this.
like, yeah, you're getting recognized for like your work, in a weird
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And it's fun stuff. So
it, yeah, I didn't even know you've been in this since October. That's crazy.
that's it. Last October, I went at October 20th. I started this last year. And now it's, what is, I don't even know what month it is.
April
April,
30th.
May,
Yeah.
April 30th. Yeah. So that's it.
That's
And,
crazy.
mhm.
That's insane. That's insane. No, I mean, what particularly stuck out from my perspective is, I try to do what you do,
Mhm.
and when I say that is like I try to like cut through the bullshit,
Yeah.
like there's just a lot of bullshit, a lot of people, um, that are fluffing brands and,
Yeah.
and like I said, they're incentivized to talk about
Hmm.
watches. Financially, nothing wrong
Yes.
with that, whatever. But would you really say those things if you weren't incentivized to talk about them?
Well,
That's what
that's
I,
it. That's how I see those people too. And again, there's nothing wrong with it.
sure.
Me personally, I have nobody that I'm partnered with. Nobody, I have nothing. It's literally just me going on airplanes, going to shows. Like, so I don't have a single brand that's like, hey, wear my watch or do this. So I'm finding it very fun right now because I have no ulterior motives. Like, I'm just trying to get women to not wear freaking Apple watches because they're
Yeah.
hideous. Like, yes, you could wear them if you're like running or like you have a medical problem, but like, don't wear it to a wedding. You look stupid. So, that's kind of just like what I'm doing is I don't hate Apple. I'm not trying to take down a company or anything, but
Sure, sure.
I'm just doing it for fun. And I know maybe at some point there will be opportunities, but for now, like that's just where I'm at. Like I'm at the very beginning stages of this. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, being partnered, but you could definitely tell the difference in the content with people when there's money involved, which is understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those opportunities those opportunities will obviously come. And yeah, it becomes a little bit more challenging politically once you get
Mhm.
there. I've
I bet.
noticed. Because now I'm like, oh, I'm going to an event like, and 13 of the brands that I'm working with are going to be there. Like, which watch do I wear? Like,
Yeah.
I had a very like candid conversation with my buddy who also was a watch YouTuber, and he is now no longer a watch YouTuber, which is sad.
Mm.
But nevertheless, he's like, just do a safe pick. A lot of the brands that you're working with are, upper end, higher end brands. Like just wear something that's like a couple $1,000. It's not 10,
Mhm.
15, $20,000, that steps on the toes of the brands that you're working with. So, you
Right.
know, and he was like, just stay in that sandbox, where it's like there's, you know, design language here. Like everybody respects it.
Mhm.
And you're not competing for the same little piece of the pie. So in that case, I chose Doxa, which was a safe play I felt
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Those are fun.
I had one watch that I wore the whole trip. Well, I did wear Oris because I was working on
Mhm.
like an Oris project.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, I was just like, this is a safe play. Like it feels familiar. Like so the whole time I just wore one watch during Watches and Wonder, which was
Nice.
crazy,
Yeah.
besides the Ors thing. But nevertheless, yeah, it becomes that political, like, how do you
Mhm.
navigate this? You
Yep.
know? And I don't have an answer for that. So and if you do, just please let me know too. So
Someday when I
uh
make it. We're not there
um
yet.
I'm curious. So you're here now, and what advice would you give to women looking to not only, let's just say, I mean, whatever it is they're trying to do in watches, looking to start their own collection, or maybe take inspiration from people like you or Sophie or Miss GMT or whoever. Like, what advice would you give to somebody, looking to get into the watch industry as a female?
I would say do your research, which can be difficult. It's easy to say that, but we all know there's a lot of misinformation about watches online and things. So I think if you could find someone you trust, I think that's a big part of it. And then, because I think it's really hard, especially for women, like, where do I go? Like, where do I buy a watch? Where do I start? And it's like I feel like it's like walking into a car dealership sometimes. Like you feel that little bit of intimidation that it's mostly men, and am I going to get screwed here? Like, are they going to sell me something that I don't need or this and that? So I think if you could find any bit of information that's reliable to get you in the door, and that's something I really like to do with women. I just do it for fun. Like I'll be like, I'll take you watch shopping. You know what I mean? Because it's like you just have to get over that hurdle of getting your foot in the door. And then if you can get a basic knowledge, like I'm talking basic, what is quartz? What is mechanical? and that's about it. Like just a few terms under your belt so that when you're in a watch store, you know what you're looking at. And I would say I wouldn't suggest like diving right into like pre-owned because I feel like you need to do a lot of research on that. Like I had to because I was like,
Right.
how do I know I'm getting like a real gold Omega? Like, how do I know? I have no idea.
Sure.
So I would recommend like because I bought some of my first watches on like jomashop.com and they were brand new. I had heard that those were websites I could use or just buy directly from the brands to start. And then, once you educate yourself more, you can you could buy like an old Rolex. You know what I mean? I would never have bought this when I was first starting out because I wouldn't have known what I was looking for.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, that's great advice. Definitely do your homework.
Hmm.
Um, I like to say a lot that just, learn the more you learn about yourself, the more you're going to learn about what watches mean to you.
Yes, that
Know,
too.
like what you like.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people I've noticed, and I guess because I was on the other side of the counter, they
Hmm.
they buy a watch because it's presented to them in such a
Mm,
way.
yeah.
But kind of like buying a car, like, you just don't go buy a car every day, like you go buy
No.
a latte or whatever.
Hmm.
So it's a longer sales process, and your time from the moment you're exposed to a watch to the moment you buy it, like you should have like a window that like, okay, like I first learned about this watch April 30th, 2025, like the wrist chick told me about this.
Hmm.
Then okay, 90 days, 6 months, whatever, 180 days. If
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about that watch, maybe I should bring it into my collection.
Yeah.
Uh,
I agree. Yeah. It's that's what I used to do with tattoos. I would be like, I would draw it up and I'd be like, in 6 months from now, if I'm not sick of looking at it, I'll get it. So that's what I used to do when I
Yeah,
got tattoos in my
same.
my youth. But I agree. And I think too for women, like I've gotten this feedback from a lot of them because I asked them like why don't you have a watch or why do you want to watch? And a lot of them say, like, if they're married or they have husbands, boyfriends, partners, they're like, a lot of times, like, my husband is really into watches and he really wants me to be into watches. So he bought me a watch, but I don't like it. And it's kind of like forced on them. And so I think if
Right.
women can, like you said, figure out what they actually like. Because, I understand that most women probably don't care about tourbillons and movements and quick set dates and things like that. So I don't talk about a lot of that stuff. I bring it up once in a while, but if I think they need to figure out like if you want like a pretty dainty diamondy watch like that has a battery, then that's what you get. And you don't have to. I try not to influence people to buy certain watches. I influence them to figure out what you like regardless of what is high horology or has a good movement or is a reputable brand. Like I just recently bought a watch while I was on Portobello Road. I bought a vintage Zenith, but I also bought a brand I have never heard of. I cannot even find it on the internet, but it's a dress watch and I loved it. And I just bought it because I love the way it looked. It is quartz, but again, it doesn't have to be this big deal of like have to understand the inner working. So I say just go with what you like and take, like you said, take the time. But it's hard to not be influenced by other people if there's pressure being put on you. So I try really hard, like to say, like, I like this watch, but this may not work for every girl.
Yeah.
So
Disclaimer. You have to throw a disclaimer out there.
yes, always, because there's no, and I will always say to every brand, like if I look at their watches, like I may not like the watch personally, but it doesn't mean it's a bad watch. It's just
Yeah.
not something I would put on my wrist. So I will never say a watch is bad. It's just that it's not for me.
I'm amazing. I knew that I mean you could just tell by the type of content that people are producing, and that's the same way I feel. Like,
Mhm.
I've gotten watches in from brands that like I just didn't feel comfortable reviewing.
Yeah.
Like, like this isn't for me. Like I get what you're trying to do, but maybe I'm just not the right creator for you, you
Yeah.
know.
And that's
Um
okay.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and however those conversations ended up, it's hard to say those things, but knowing where you draw the line is like, okay, like I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate the accessibility you're trying to, to bring to the market. I appreciate it that you're trying to give somebody an alternative to a higher end watch,
Mhm.
for a couple $100 and cool. Like, but I typically tend to play in the higher end sandbox. So and there's tons of great YouTubers out there that just love to talk about affordable watches.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm sadly not one of them, but
That's okay.
I
That's
I
all
have
right.
I have a taste for the finer things in life.
That's fine. Yeah.
But
It's
I'm
you have to do what you like, and that's when people will see that you're genuine and they're gonna wanna watch you. Because if you're faking it and you're like, "Oh, I love this $200 watch. It's the best thing in the world." It's like, no, like if you don't like, you don't like it, and people are gonna see that. So I think it's fine to go with what you like.
what I'm curious to get now. So since this is still probably fresh on your mind and you
Mhm.
just got into the industry, I mean, that's amazing. I had no idea that you started in October. Like I was
The
no,
end of October, which
frick.
I'd like to
Yeah,
point out,
sorry.
so it's
So
almost November. It's so
yeah, that's
ridiculous.
crazy. Bonkers.
Yeah, yeah,
Trajectory is insane.
yeah.
But from the early days of getting passionate about watches to, having some, perspective on the inside of the industry, the way that things work, getting behind that curtain now, what's surprised you now that you're seeing the watch industry from a different perspective? Or what have you been disappointed by as well, additionally?
So I would say the biggest thing that was surprising to me was if you are, I see some of these watch dealers that are just hustlers. They don't want to talk. It's just, how do I flip this watch? How do I sell this watch? And, it's just very like cold and like to the point money, and there's no like pleasantries. And so seeing that side of it and the reality of like, okay, yeah, this is like how people put food on their table, and like they can't always be this bubbly person that can talk for hours. So you see that like really fast paced type of watch selling, like New York City, there's a few dealers, things you
Yeah.
see. That was kind of shocking to me because I'm like, oh, watches are so wonderful, let's talk about them. It's like, no, these people are like, 25,000, let's go right now, flip a coin, here we go. So that part to me was a little surprising. And to get into the watch industry, it's like it's something I've thought about, now that it's a hobby for me, but like, it's kind of like, where do you see yourself? And it's like, I don't know if I'm like that hustler that's just gonna be like, give me 25 for this Rolex, and or else get the hell out of my shop. So it's a little cutthroat at times. So that was definitely surprising to me.
Yeah, and I have friends that are like that, and people that I mingle with that are in my social circle that are just the hustler mode, and I
Mhm.
respect it,
Yeah.
and I mean I get it. I hope I don't get there. Like
Yeah.
I hope that I don't
Yeah.
take that take on watches. I'm still trying to pace myself. I'm still trying to be a refreshing creator and not just to pump shit out because I have to.
Mhm.
I have to have that balance, and I'm still, trying to figure that out. But no, I mean, it's definitely one of the more disappointing things that I think I've seen too.
Mm.
You see people that are so passionate about it, and I wouldn't say that all of them are predators about
Mhm.
people's passions, but
Right.
people are definitely capitalizing on other people's enthusiasm, and to me that I don't like. And I
Mhm.
have because I sold watches, so I feel like I needed a way to redeem myself, to cleanse myself, if that's the right word. Um, because I mean I got to a point where like I was selling I was selling watches. I did I don't even know how much I did, and I mean I did I did like like a couple $100,000 in a month, in watch
That's
sales.
awesome. Yeah.
And I had one guy that like came in to replace a watch battery, and I ended up selling him a watch.
There you go. Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's one of those like realization moments where like you have the ability to to like extract resources from somebody else and bring them to you.
Right.
And and so now with like, where I'm at now, like I don't take any money from my audience,
Mhm.
like I don't ever want to like charge a premium to my
Mhm.
audience. Like so like you're never gonna see me do a collaboration, at least right now, like a collaboration
Mhm.
watch where it's like charging X dollars or whatever. So a lot of the revenue that comes to me comes from, advertisers. So it costs my audience nothing, or brands,
Yeah.
And so again, I don't want to take resources away from my audience and bring them to myself. I want to, do it in a moral way where, like
Sure.
I'm, my incentives are in the right place, but I'm also not curtailing my opinions, my thoughts, and being another shill. So I'm still trying to figure out that, but as
Yeah.
it's not going too well
No, it's
because
not going too well.
because
I mean, it
well
seems like a nice way to be, but I get it. It's
well it
I
it
know.
is going well, like from it's going well to my audience.
Mhm.
But it's hard because all this costs
Yeah.
money, putting on a
Yeah.
podcast and
Yeah.
shooting video. I mean, we've got multiple camera, like we just bought new cameras for our YouTube channel, we bought new lenses. Like we spent almost 20 grand, on new camera equipment,
That's
like
insane, and I mean, I don't have that part of it, but I mean, just traveling,
yeah,
tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, and this is just my money, like, I'm not again, nobody pays me to
yeah,
travel and
same.
try on watches, and, and also, like, you gotta look the part, and it's so for me, I don't dress, like, super, super nice on a daily basis, so, like, I invested in like, a design like I mean, I wanted it anyways, my first designer bag and this and that. So girls too, there's other parts of it of like how you walk into a room and how you present yourself. So I've spent tons of money on clothes and things like that. People don't realize those little things you do to like really but it's also for my own confidence too. It's not just to impress other people. It's like I want to feel
Sure.
comfortable walking into a room. So there's a lot of money that goes into this hobby. And
It
so
is.
eventually, yes, like you may need to monetize off of it if this is what you want to do. I mean, I have a career to fall back on, but I'm definitely loving the watch world and I'm excited to see if any doors open for me. I don't know what those doors would be or what I would like to do, but hopefully if I stick around long enough and people stay interested, then maybe I can find something.
Yeah, I feel the same way because, I think about like sustainability a lot.
Hmm.
Like, and I take time away from my family,
Yeah.
and I take money in my own pocket, same thing. Like,
Yeah.
nobody paid for my ticket to Watches and Wonders.
Nope.
Nobody paid for my hotel. Like nobody paid for all the camera equipment. You know what I mean? Like this is
Hmm.
we make, we don't make like we haven't even like broken even
Yeah.
on our
Yeah.
content. And
Yep.
I'm okay with that. Like I'm okay with that. Like there's, but at some point, I think about sustainability and how can
Yeah.
how can I keep my code of ethics, if that's what you want to call it,
Sure.
while still producing content and staying true to myself and in being, being the voice that I hope that I am, or
Mhm.
that people listen to and people, feel connected to. Um, and I hate to even say this, but I don't even look at the data. Like I don't even look at the data. Like I don't even look at the
No.
analytics. Like,
No.
I was
Some
talking to,
people obsess over that, but
yeah,
yeah, not everybody does.
I was talking to Miss GMT, and I mean she's into the analytics and I just do stuff that I think people would want to see, or that
Hmm.
I would want to see,
Right.
or maybe
And
like I
so,
fill a gap, like okay, like why isn't this exist? Like I think maybe people would
mhm.
find this interesting. I have the means to present it or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I get that.
That's a good
Uh,
approach though too. Yeah, because it's I tend to just look at basic stuff, like, because when you're starting out, like, I have no idea what I'm doing, so I would look at which video I just did basic. I'm like, which videos are getting the most views? And so I try to see like, oh, is it because like it's me in the video, it's just my wrist, it's someone else in the video. So I don't go too far into it. But like now that I'm in breaking into YouTube, like I'm gonna start to, I'm gonna just pump out content, do what I like, and see how it goes. And then, you can start to look a little more. But that's again, once you're starting to really want to grow and possibly make money, is when you really are analyzing all that data. So I do look at some stuff, but not too much.
Yeah, that becomes challenging because then you start to make decisions not for the passion, but for, the chase.
Right, exactly.
You
Like, I mean,
can't.
I put out all different stuff, like just travel stuff, and again, it's like I'm
Yeah.
trying to reach a female audience because 99% of the watch, I mean, I'm making up that number, but I'm just saying most of the watch world is men, and it's obvious any watch event you walk into. So, how do I reach women is the question. And so I'm finding creative ways to do that. And I'm learning as I go. I'm like, oh, like they're not just going to watch a YouTube video about watches, like, or my Instagram. So like I'll incorporate fashion, I'll incorporate dating advice because you could be on a date with a guy and be like, "Is that a Rolex Submariner?" And he's like, "Oh my God, I love you," and then you're married. So finding ways to connect with women, whether it's jewelry, fashion, dating, different things, and so but also show them, maybe they come look and they're like, "Oh, she's wearing a watch. Like I've never worn a watch, and maybe I'll watch her." Or I love to travel. She loves to travel. So, and again, it's not for any mischievous reason or like I need these girls to watch me. It's like I really do care about just seeing if I can get women to possibly try a watch on. I don't care what watch it is, but just to in the watch world is so amazing and the events are so awesome, and to travel, and even if it's just an excuse to travel is incredible, to go to these events. And I'm also like, girls, if you're single and you're complaining at home, go to a watch event. It's about like 700 men in a room. I'm like, this is where you need to be. You don't go to your local bar, go to like Intersect Watch Show. Like, come on. Like, this is a hidden gem here that I have found. So get on
But
it. I don't want to hear you complaining you're lonely. So go to a
that's
watch
so
show.
funny. That's
It's
so
true. It's like
funny.
you walk in there, it's like a sausage fest, and you're like, well, this is where all the men are. I've been like hiding in my apartment all this time, lonely and sad and eating Ben and Jerry's. So like go to a watch show. You don't have to care about the watches. Look confused, and that's even better. They'll come up to you and be like, "Oh, I could tell you about this." And yeah, and you have a husband, so you're welcome.
No, so I have a watch club here in Vegas,
Hmm.
and we have about 100 members. And
Oh, nice.
I
That's a
started
lot.
a group here, and we do events every single month, and we do like branded events. Like a brand will come in and like
Yeah.
sponsor us and fly in or whatever and do stuff like that. My friend, and she's like some podcasts back, but you can go listen to her. Her name's Abington,
Okay.
and she has an all female tool watch company, and she's based here in Vegas.
Really?
And
Very
it's
cool.
yeah, she's freaking awesome. Um,
Nice.
Nevertheless, like I've asked myself that too, because she's in the watch club, and
Hmm.
she doesn't like she came to like an event last Friday,
Hmm.
and she was like, hey, like I want to see like more ladies at the watch club thing. I was like, yeah, me too. Like, what can I do? Like, and then she's like, let me think about it, and I'll get back. She had a couple ideas, but
Yeah.
I want this space to be for everybody. You
Hmm.
know, like I in a weird way, like I believe that everybody, I mean, we're all on the same planet. Like we all at some place came from the same place, whatever that
Hmm.
is. I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
we're all in this world together.
Hmm.
And this passion is I mean, we're already a small hobby, I would say.
Yeah.
And so like whatever I can do to help kind of like create a space for whatever you are, if you're an alien from Saturn or if you're,
Yeah.
just a watch bro, like
Yeah.
hopefully, you'll be able to come to our events. And
Definitely.
so with that, how do you see the role of women evolving in the watch industry and in the collecting circles? That's a hard
So
question.
it's a tough question, but I'm a I'm someone like the first thing that comes to my brain, I just say it.
Say it.
I want to see. This is the first thing. This is not scripted. Obviously, we didn't plan any of this.
Yeah,
The
yeah, of course.
first thing I thought of, and this is something I'm interested in doing. So I may be giving out spoilers of future plans, but like I don't care. Like
Okay. Yeah.
I have this vision of like not to exclude men, but to have like female watch groups that like, or just groups of girls that like go to events together. Like, if I can find a way to say, hey, I have a sign up and I'm going to take 15 girls to wind up in New York. We're going to meet in New York. We're going to go out for dinner, and we're going to go to the watch show together. And I feel like that's how you could get people who aren't into watches possibly into the space, and they can then walk around with a girl who they may be more comfortable with. I don't know.
Sure.
Because again, it's a room full of men, and it could be intimidating. So I have that idea of like maybe female groups, but then like bringing them into like a red bar, or like your watch group in Vegas, and like showing them. Because like when I was just at Boucher Watch Week, I was just there, like I got invited out to dinner, and it's a table full of guys, and I'm the only girl. So not many girls would do that or go out and feel comfortable doing that. So I think if you have groups of girls that kind of stick together, because I feel like girls feel comfortable with other girls, I think that's kind of the way to go about it, to get them into the space with the men, and then they can realize like, oh, this is a cool group of people, like men, women, it doesn't matter. And that's kind of how I see it
That's actually a really interesting.
possibly working. Like,
No, that's
just it.
that's that's such an interesting concept, and it'll work. And the reason why I feel like it'll work is so when I came back from Switzerland, the next day I had NAB. So I landed from Switzerland, got like 5 hours of sleep, woke up and went to NAB the next day, which
Oh
is
wow.
a filmmakers conference here in Vegas.
Okay.
And I'm working on a project. I was doing some camera tests, yada yada. So all the camera
Yeah.
manufacturers were there, you know.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, as I'm looking through like the directory to see what other camera brands are there, I see like a women in film booth.
Mm, okay. There you
And
go.
and yeah, so they had like their own little table
Yeah.
at NAB, which is the biggest filmmaker show. And yeah, it's just like it's like a supportive community that just
Hmm.
empowers women who are in
Hmm.
because film is also, a very
Yeah.
male dominated,
I
video
bet.
production, is also a male dominated career, hobby, whatever. Um, so yeah, I mean, having something like that for watches would be bananas, would be
Yeah, that's
awesome, just be
that's
game
kind
changer.
of my late night crazy idea I've just had recently. And I'm obviously not a tech person. My AirPods keep falling out. I understand
That's
that,
okay.
the
Yeah,
whole I'm not into cameras and stuff, so I fit that
sure,
stereotype. But yeah, I really want to get that going. And I think that it could just show them. And even if it's just something like, again, they don't care that much about the watches, but it gets them into a fun space and make friend like I've made friends. And so even just for socializing, and then yes, there are watches, you can maybe buy a watch, and but you don't have to be obsessed with them. You don't have to care about how they work. Again, it's like everybody in the watch space is there on different levels of like how much you're geeking out about it. So I definitely think that's a project I'm working on, and hoping, because I have brought individual girls to shows,
sure.
and they've bought their first watch and they've loved it. And they're like, why did I not know this existed? And so I've done that with a few. Yeah, I'm like, it's like an underground world. Like, so I definitely think that's something I'm going to be doing, because I think that's how we're going to grow the community more. Because again, every show I go to, it's like I find I went to Intersect, there were two girls there, and Kelly, and Vinyls and Dials or something. I
Yeah,
forget her name. She's so fun.
yeah, yeah.
So I never met them in my life, and now we're like best friends because they were the only two other girls in the room, and they're probably like, you kind of have this instant bond, and we also like got along so well, and they're amazing, and so but you kind of stick together. So I think if I could bring more women into those rooms, then
You were
it could be a good thing.
you're at the intersect in Charlotte, right? Is that I'm
Yeah,
assuming?
yeah,
Okay. How
yeah,
was
yeah.
that? That seemed
It was
fun.
fun. It was different. I didn't know what to expect. And it was in a beautiful location. It like overlooked the city. It wasn't massive, there weren't like a million watch brands there, like a wind up, but I went like the night before, which I recommend doing because if you had to like pay to go the night before, it wasn't very much. And then you have
Sure.
like the days that are open for free. I went the night before, and that's where you meet like, Ben from Ben's Watches
Yeah.
in New York. I've met him. I've seen him at every single watch show. I think we have a picture every single watch show. We always bump into each other. I'm like, what's up? He's like, like little brother. I forget how young he is. I won't say it, but I'm like, oh my God, he's doing so good.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
He's hustling. So that was a great watch show because then you meet those people too, like the night before, and the brands that were there, like Isotope, things like that. I've never seen those watches in person, and Formex, all those brands, like you just get that personal experience. Studio Underdog, so I really liked it, and I got to hang out with all the owners afterwards. They
Oh, cool.
invited me out to like a brewery, and like you have all different brands that were there. Baltic, Fears watches were there. So I had an amazing time. But you want to know what it was? Want to know how I got out to dinner? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the
Please.
guys had said something, but one girl was working there and she was selling like a watch boxes. And she kind of looked at me and she's like, are you doing anything later? I didn't even know her name. And she's like, do you want to come out with us? And I was like, yeah. I was like, someone mentioned it. And she's like, yeah, yeah. She's from another country. We immediately bonded because again, girls, they find
Yeah.
each other. So
Yeah.
I had an
Sure.
amazing. I got to sit with every owner from that watch. So and but like on a laid back level, like at a brewery. So it was awesome. So,
They're an easy group, like the whole Intersect team, like
oh, yeah,
Peter, Wes, call it like they're such an
they're
easy group
awesome.
to
Yeah.
like get into. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because they're there for the right reasons and
Mm-hmm.
their passion it doesn't have any boundaries
It
and
shows. Yep, for sure.
yeah it's I mean it's a great group and that was one of the first actual groups that I also kind of entered
Mm-hmm.
through like I had met some of them at Wind Up in San Francisco and then just stayed in contact and
Mm-hmm.
I mean they're all so amazing like at what they
Yeah,
do
they
and
are. They're so
and
passionate.
and the community, that's what I really kind of like admire, brands that are really doing things for the community, like the
Mm-hmm.
watch community.
Yeah.
And so I mean, same thing, like Isotope is a great
Mm-hmm.
example. Jose,
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal person, like super passionate about what he does, and it just kind of like oozes off of him. Like if you're even in the
Mm-hmm.
same room as him, like
Yeah,
it's just contagious, which is just amazing.
I
Um,
agree.
so this is probably the question that you ask yourself every day, but I've got a couple more here. We're almost done, I promise.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm not, what am I doing? I'm
What?
like,
I noticed you haven't drank your water yet, so
I haven't. My voice is still here. This is good. This is good. I'm
um,
thriving.
how do you hope your presence in the watch industry will inspire more women and younger collectors to get involved in the community?
Well, it's funny you asked that question because I just had an experience with a girl that's definitely much younger than me. I could tell just, how she looked, how she talked. She was adorable. And she, I had met her at Boucher and she was working there and she looked at me, she goes, you're just so cool. And like, so for a girl to say that, it was like adorable. And she's like, you make it look cool. Like so even if like I'm cool to the younger kids, to be called cool is like a very, very cool thing. So I hope that I could just show that I'm a real person, okay?
Yeah.
I am not an actor. I don't this is I'm just a normal everyday person. I have a regular job. I go about my business like, but if you find something you really like and you can have fun with it and combine other things you love, for me, it's travel. So like if you're, you know, I hope to inspire them to get into the watch world in some way. They don't need to be on the level again of like knowing the inner working, all the movements, all the reference numbers. Like, don't be intimidated by that. And if you just love like really pretty watches or you just love one brand, like, oh, I love Cartiers, they're so pretty, like, go with it. And, don't be afraid to walk into those spaces, and I'm just trying to show them that it can be fun because again, you watch a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people, and it's very like, okay, this is the caliber 3075. And I know I've said that in one of my YouTube videos, but I was like excited. I was like, it has a
Right.
quick set date, but like I know most people don't care. So just have fun. That's what I'm hoping, to just be the fun person that's like, just come on in, like have fun, see what you like. If you don't like it, no big deal, but put yourself out there, take the risk. If you make an Instagram channel, if you want to start doing stuff, just do it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's all good.
Let's talk about the future. What kind of legacy do you kind of hope to build in the watch space? Not only as a collector or creator or, even beyond, but what do you hope your legacy looks like, in the watch industry?
I'm hoping that it revolves around that girl that is just so excited about watches. And I have been told, you get feedback from people, right? And I've been told I'm approachable and I'm very real and I'm not fake and I'm not stuffy. So I would like to maintain that. And I'm sarcastic. I like to have fun. I want people to remember me or see me as who I actually am as a person in real life, which is what you're seeing right now on camera. So I want to maintain that. And, I don't know where my future is going to go with if I can work in this industry in some capacity. Am I a salesman at heart? No, I'll be like, oh, you don't need that. It's $75,000. Like, ugh,
Yeah, I'm the worst at that.
yeah, I'm not going to be good at that. So, like, I just have to find my way. And I think if I find the right spot in the watch world where I could stick to who I am, which is like quirky, a little crazy, likes to have fun, likes to travel. That's really what it's about for me, is just remaining who I am. And if I can start this revolution of getting this, women into the watch world and get off Apple watches, for at least, 2 hours a day, like I'm good. Like I was at a wedding recently and I had to threaten the lives of the bridesmaids to get their Apple watches off before we walked down the aisle at this wedding. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you look ridiculous. So, I hope that there is a world someday where I don't have to threaten people to take off their Apple watches.
That's
So
so
that's
fun.
it. Yeah.
That's so funny to look at it from that perspective because I will wear I will wear
You
Apple Watch
see, that's okay. It's okay.
but
Which
I'm
one?
wearing a
Which
real
what's your,
watch too.
what's your other watch that you have on?
I am wearing a Zenith Chronomaster Sport.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, I love it, love it, love it.
Very nice. I just got my first Zenith, but it's very old and does not have a quick set date, so
Those
it's
quick set
exhausting.
dates, bane of our existence.
Gotta get it, gotta get one. Uh,
I
mm.
want to thank you. This has been an incredible
Oh,
conversation.
welcome. It's my
Um,
pleasure. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it. This is my first podcast, so thank you.
really?
Yeah, I mean, I've done like live streams and that kind of stuff, and Gonzo streams, running around like a
Oh
maniac.
gosh.
But like, yeah, not for me. But this is, yeah, definitely my first time doing this, so I really appreciate
Wow.
you wanting
I
me to
am
come on.
I feel like I'm gonna go down in the history books because my
If I
first
make it someday.
Well, so funny you said that because when I did my podcast with Miss GMT, she had never done a podcast either.
Oh, really?
So
Okay, so that's
I
awesome.
yeah, I was
There
the
you go.
first the first podcast with Miss GMT, and now you, which is crazy. Um,
I like that because she's killing it right now. So that is awesome. No, I
yeah,
appreciate.
I'm really proud of her. I'm
Yeah.
really proud of her to see like her because I haven't known her for I've known her for about a year, maybe no,
Mhm.
but no, just to see like how she's kind of like navigating through the industry is it's awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
We are certainly going to link your Instagram below, your YouTube.
Thank
Let
you.
people know where they can find you if they don't already follow you for whatever reason. Thank you so much for spending almost an hour and a half with us. This is a feature film here. Uh,
Yeah, that's it. We could keep rolling. I mean, like, I got nothing. I was just gonna go to the pool. So, like, whatever you wanna, whatever you wanna do.
we'll save it for next time for sure. We'll save it for next time. Um,
It's good.
Thank you so much for everybody who made it till the end of the podcast. I have no idea why I have a pen in my hand. I haven't wrote anything. Um, Stay curious, stay collecting, and we will see you next time on the next episode of Lonely Wrist.
Ciao for now.